Meteorologist Serena Arnold. The northern lights last night on Tuesday, November 11th were off the hook. These photos don't have saturation pushed up to 10,000%. This green line actually looked like this in the sky last night. Let's talk about why you get the different colors and why you may be able to see them again tonight. I've been dealing with a bit of a cold, but I stood outside for an hour last night and probably gave myself pneumonia eventually, but God, was it worth it. I did a previous video talking about the aurora and coronal mass ejections and how this causes the aurora borealis. I will put that into my story. Go check that out. We're going to assume you saw that. The reason you see different colors in the aurora has to do with where in the atmosphere you have this reaction taking place. Really high up, it's reds. That's why all the reds are seen further south. The closer to ground level you are, which it's not, it's way, way up there, the cooler these colors get. That's why videos from Canada are showing these purples and blues, but people who captured them as far south as Arizona and Florida saw the reds. Let's remember the Earth isn't a perfect sphere. It's spinning really fast, which actually pushes it out more at the equator than it does at the poles. It's a little fatter than it is tall. The exact same thing happens for our entire atmosphere, which includes the troposphere, where all the weather happens, all the way out to the ionosphere and the magnetosphere, those like outermost layers of the atmosphere where you're basically in space. We have these different layers of the atmosphere, but because of the solar wind right here that's coming from the sun, pushes into that, it collapses this front side and we have this really long tail on the back side. This is super important. The reason you see the northern lights is because as that solar wind comes in, it actually ends up entering this magnetosphere in the back, like way back here. See, what's happening is these crazy particles are flying to Earth incredibly fast, about a tenth of the speed of sound fast, which doesn't sound fast, but believe me, that's really fast. They come flying by and they get stuck back here almost in like these little eddies, and they end up falling back down towards the atmosphere. So all of these particles come rushing back in towards Earth. Even though I only showed you a 2D picture, that roundness, those different layers are 3D. And so what you're seeing is that circle that encompasses, it's falling between those layers that come back down to Earth. The closer you are to the poles, the lower to the atmosphere those particles can get. And so they have more oxygen. That's what causes the green. But don't forget, our atmosphere is made up of 78% nitrogen. And so actually, when you get down in the lower part of the atmosphere that we breathe, you start to see these blues and purples from the nitrogen. The red comes from places where we are really, really high and you don't have as high of an oxygen concentration. This is why you'll almost never see the bright greens and especially the bright blues and purples down at the lower latitudes, mid-latitudes. This explains why the greatest aurora is always on the back side of the Earth, not the side facing the sun. Not only would you not see it very well, obviously, but it's on this back side because of how those winds are coming back down, entering that magnetosphere and dropping back down to Earth. Also, I don't love that graphic because it's showing intensity and not the colors. And so that red area is where you end up seeing the brightest green colors, but where that green really extends farther south is where you see the brightest reds. You can see why I don't love it. So the data from yesterday was amazing. And get yourself an Aurora app if you really want to see this. Turn on your location services and it'll notify you when it thinks you might be able to see it. So as we can see, things were calm and quiet, and then boom, we had that CME hit us here. You could also see it in this data. Now, if you think weather forecasting sucks, wait till you hear about space weather forecasting. We have 93 miles between the sun and us with very few observation points in between. So these things I find are very general estimates. We're coming out of G4 conditions, and they're saying that with the timing of these additional solar flares that are coming out, they think we're going to get back up to G4. Some people are even saying we might see G5 conditions. Basically, the bigger the G, the better chance you see them, and the further south you see them. So there is a chance that it is going to peak again tonight. I'm not promising you anything because a lot of times these kind of forecasts have honestly let me down personally. The other thing we need to think about is cloud cover. This is what cloud cover is forecast to be tonight. This is like 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. So obviously you're going to be seeing a little bit later into the west. So we do have some clouds in the northeast here. I'll zoom in that in a bit that we're going to be able to see. Hopefully we can see through. Hopefully we get some breaks. A lot of cloud cover here on the west, but otherwise throughout the Midwest and the Central Plains, things are actually looking pretty good. Zooming into the northeastern United States, there is this little bit of a cloud bank here that is pushing itself off east. So you still have a chance. I have seen amazing aurora pictures where when the aurora gets really bright, you can actually see the green and red glows through the clouds. So get out there, give it a try. I think it's going to be totally worth it. And if we get lucky enough to get a break, it's going to be worth it. For most people to see the aurora when it does happen, use a night sight mode on your camera, some type of long exposure. It does pick it up better than our eyes do. It's just the way it is. Most of the pictures you're seeing people post online, they also throw saturation up stupid high. These are untouched photos from my long exposure phone. But I will say, with the northern lights, a lot of people have to see it through their camera. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. If it gets bright enough, though, you can see it. And a lot of people, even far south, were able to see the red with the naked eye last night. This green stripe, like I told you earlier, is just like what it looked like in the sky with my eyes. The red was a little bit more subdued. So get out there, give it a try, get an Aurora app that can notify you if the chances are high, but you just got to get out there and basically keep trying and keep checking.